So we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. Haven't seen you for several months now, so excited to get rolling on the information meeting again. And so we're actually going to start the presentation today with Enterprise National. So they're here just to let you guys know. I'm sure you're very aware of our contract, but they're here to just sort of get a little bit more into the weeds on the contract and maybe get you thinking about maybe some other perks that your travelers aren't thinking about. And so we got a few guests here. And so I have Jason Haas and Nikki Schmidt are going to be the presenters today. And so let's go ahead and get started. I'll get this out of the way. And so if they have any questions, I have the chat open right here for you. And so it'll just be kind of over here to the right. Get this out of your way. And then just as usual, you just hit the arrow when you're going through the slides. I'll have you guys sit right here by the mic so they can hear you, okay? And then, yeah, just talk towards this way so they can hear you.
Good morning, everyone. As Kelly said, my name is Jason Haas. I'm a sales manager with Enterprise and National Car Rental, and I oversee the state of Washington contract, of which the University of Washington is part of that with the corporate discount number you guys currently have with us. And I'll let Nikki introduce herself.
My name's Nikki Schmidt. I'm the manager over at the University District Enterprise location, so just right down the street.
Oh, great, thanks, Nikki. So what we're going to go through today is just kind of an overview, high overview of what the state contract looks like and that the university takes part of. Kind of talk about some of the features and benefits of the contract, as well as look at some pricing as well of what we do charge for the vehicles. And then I want to highlight our National Car Rental brand. Because of some of the benefits of the Emerald Club and some of the things maybe some travelers aren't aware of that they can take advantage of when renting from National at the airports. And of course, then talk a little bit about what we can do for you guys here locally down the street from you with the Enterprise location here in the University District. So the program that is set up under the state of Washington car rental contract is dual branded. So it works, as I mentioned, for both of those brands. There's negotiated rates. The NASPO or state contract as a whole is a multi-state contract. So the total spend of car rental that we bid on was, I think, over $25 million. So the University of Washington gets pricing of a $25 million customer, even though you don't have to spend that much to get it. So it's a very advantageous pricing structure for the university. Also, the pricing includes damage waiver and liability coverage. So there's $1 million of liability included in the program. And the damage waiver means if anything happens to our vehicle, whether it's the fault of the renter or someone else, there's no responsibility to the renter. So it's pretty much a walk away kind of situation. Also unique is that we allow 18 to 20-year-old renters. Now, of course, this is a business use only contract, so that's not applicable to a leisure use, going on a vacation. If you have anyone in a department that's 18 to 20-year-old student that's on official business, they can use a contract to get a vehicle. And also there's an opportunity for the university and for your departments to save money with a mileage reimbursement alternative. It's in fact at 58.5 cents a mile. If you have people driving personal cars and getting reimbursed for that, really, if you've got someone driving about 100 to 110 miles a day, it's actually less expensive and decreased liability for the university to have that person actually go down the street and get a car from us here in the University District than it is to have them drive their own vehicle. So that's something that in the future, I hope to roll out more information on to you guys. We also have significant, a wide range of vehicles, I should say. While you guys have a policy that, I think it's up to full-size car that you can rent, in a situation you absolutely needed a minivan or an SUV or even a pickup truck, we carry all of those vehicles and they're on the state contract. So we just want to let you know that we have those access to those. The state of Washington rates you'll see here, this is a structure and kind of breakdown. So for a mid-size car, it's $33.53 a day. And like I said, that's all inclusive of coverage. And you'll see all the other car class pricing here. Pretty much this is a nationwide program. So no matter where you go, this is the base rate. Although you'll see on the very bottom there are some geographic surcharges in certain markets. And this is pared down significantly from what it would be in a standard program. Typically there's a lot more cities included in there. So just be aware of that when you're booking. It's like you can see in the Los Angeles area, you know, that it would be $6 on top of the base rate that you see there. So don't be alarmed if you book a car and it's a little bit more expensive in certain markets, because that's what that surcharge is calculated in. So really, I wanted to touch on the national brand and what it can do for some of your most frequent business travelers. We do have one loyalty program that we encourage anyone to sign up for that's going to be using, whether it's going to be national or enterprise. But really, there's the difference between the two brands is national is geared towards that on-airport rental need. The business traveler tends to gravitate towards national because of the Emerald Club and the counter bypass, which I'll talk about in just a moment. You know, there's speed and choice and convenience, recognition with your profile, being able to choose a vehicle. And then on the enterprise side, we offer a total transportation solution. So where we can do we'll pick you up from the university, wherever you're at, or if you're at home, you need a car, you know, from there, instead of driving in here first, we have offices all around the state of Washington. So we can pick you up, you know, up north in the Everett area, all the way, you know, down south of Seattle, if you're coming from that area. You know, the convenience here locally is the location is open 7 days a week. So if you need a vehicle on a Sunday, you can get one. You don't have to wait till first thing Monday morning. So the Emerald Club works with both brands. So the Emerald Club is for nationals, the counter bypass process that you would go through to get a vehicle without having to stand in line and talk to anyone. But you can use it with Enterprise as well. So if you rent with Enterprise using your Emerald Club profile, you can still earn rewards, and your profile and information is recognized when you reserve with your Emerald Club number. So when you show up to the location, everything's already pretty much ready to print out and go. In fact, we use tablets now more than anything else. So it'll be right on the tablet and ready to just make your final selections and your signature and such. So renting from the airports with National, like I said before, it's a business travel centered program is what National is. So the goal is to get your people through the rental process as fast as possible, allowing them to choose their own car from the Emerald Isle. All the preferences can be done in advance, and really the Emerald Club allows kind of like an electronic signature. They don't actually sign anything when they show up to get their car. They can earn rental credits, renting whether both from National and Enterprise, and we service all the major airports that any of your travelers may go to. So really the process is very simple, and I know the policy you guys have is reserving is up to full size, but how the Emerald Club works is you actually reserve a mid-size car, and then when you arrive at the location, you bypass the counter and you choose any car off of the Emerald Isle. So this is a typical Emerald Club lot design. You have on the right-hand side is your basic, your regular Emerald Isle, and here we'll have mid-size cars and above. If a person rents more frequent and they've earned their way to executive or executive elite status, then they would go to the executive selection aisle. And the executive aisle has full size and above cars. So there's an automatic 2-car class upgrade for anyone who's an executive or executive elite, and it's still at the mid-size car price, no matter what vehicle is selected off the aisle. If they get into a nicer vehicle like a premium car or an SUV, it's still charged at the mid-size rate. Usually there's another animation there. You'll notice right up here in the top, there's all these different car classes here. If you specifically need a minivan or an SUV, you reserve those vehicles, and then you go to that section of car and pick out from that selection of vehicles. So even if you aren't going to the Emerald Isle, you still have the opportunity to choose from the selection of the car class. And the rental process is extremely simple. You just drive up to the exit booth, show your driver's license. They verify the car and everything, match everything up just by scanning the vehicle, and then you drive out the exit. That's really the whole process. I know our people are really nice and you'd love to talk to them, but some people don't want to talk to anyone. We get that. So The membership, as I mentioned, there's 3 different member levels, so anyone can join. It's free of charge. There's no minimum number of rentals to maintain a profile. You'll see on the very left-hand side, it says that 0 to 11 rentals or 0 to 39 days a year for the basic Emerald Club membership. Once a person crosses over to 12 rentals or 40 days, they automatically get bumped up to executive, and then executive elite is 25 rentals plus or 85 days plus. So it's an extremely simple program to use. There's a link that is posted that you can click on and enroll. And once you get that, you'll get a virtual packet via email, and you're ready to go. So we also recommend people download the national app. Now you guys use a travel agency to book a lot of your stuff. So continue to book the way you book if you're using an agency. However, the app, one of the biggest benefits of that, just like any other app, is it allows you to kind of see your upcoming reservations. It shows you the car that you're currently in, return instructions. It shows you how many days that you have until you get a free day. So there's all kinds, you can call roadside assistance, extend your rental. There's all kinds of different things you can do through the app. So we definitely recommend you have that if you are going to be traveling with us. On the enterprise side, of course, I mentioned we have the location down the street. I'll let Nikki kind of talk about what their operation looks like here and their hours and what how they typically help customers for the university.
So we're open 7 days a week. Monday through Friday, we're open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then Saturday and Sunday, we're open 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And we do pick you up if you need to be picked up from like the light rail station or from the university. We can definitely accommodate you that way. We have lots of vehicle options from economy cars to minivans and trucks if you need to move something, or if you have some guests coming from out of town, we can get those vehicles for you as well. So I would book through your portal, and then we can accommodate you as needed.
And the corporate ID number for the University of Washington is 45WA033. So that's the number you would use to access both enterprise or national. And then I see a question's popped up I'll address in just a moment here. The one thing we want to just point out is that, we not only support, the University of Washington's travel needs, but we actually are one of the largest recruiters of college graduates in the United States. If some of you may have seen some of our recruiting team up here at job fairs. UW's been a great partner of ours. And then also we're one of the official, rent-a-car sponsors of the NCAA. So it's pretty exciting that we can not only get, assist you guys with your transportation needs, but on the other side, we're actually, out there hiring people who have graduated from the University of Washington into our management training program. So I see a couple of questions, so I'll jump into those. The first was, how does Emerald Club work if you're renting on behalf of other travelers as an admin? Well, really, the booking process will kind of depend on how you're going about it. If you're using a travel agency, you just provide them the person's Emerald Club number, and they'll book it through the system that way. If you're booking direct through our website, if you scroll down to the bottom of like nationalcar.com, there's a link down there that says booking for someone else, and you just click on that. It'll take you to a page that has a field for the Emerald Club number and the last name of the person that you're booking for, of that profile, and you'll be able to go ahead and book without having to know the login of that individual. So we've taken that into consideration. We understand that not every admin has or wants access to people's profiles and passwords. So that's an easy way to go about it. And you're more than welcome, if you have any issues or questions about that, to reach out to us, and we can walk you through that as well. The other question was, it looks like was already answered by someone else. Thank you. What was the corporate discount number is there. So 45WA033, that is the number. It's set up, your account is set up to be billed to individual credit cards provided by the renters. So either if you don't have an Emerald Club profile, then the credit card is just handed to the person at the counter. If you do have an Emerald Club profile, they can put their credit card in as the primary method of payment. And once they get to the location, especially like with National and the counter bypass, really all you're showing is your driver's license. You don't have to get anything else out. They just want to verify that you actually are who you are. So that is what I have. Does anyone have any other questions? It's muted, so I suppose I can't ask, right?
Sure. Alrighty, well, thank you guys. That was awesome. Yeah, these guys definitely work closely with our contract, and Jason's who we go to for all of our contract-related questions. So it was great to hear his insight on all that stuff. But now we're going to move on to the travel office updates. And yeah, if you guys want to stick around, or you're welcome to leave, but yeah, if you want to listen,
stick around.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, travel office updates. Kelly McGarry, as most of you already know, I'm sure. And so the first slide, I figure I'd start with something a little fun this time. But if you guys are aware of memes, I came across this one recently related to travel, and I just thought I would share it because I thought it was hilarious. But one thing I will never do is travel with Tom Hanks. So make sure you let your travelers know to avoid those situations. But I was going to say a little extra credit for the first person who can name all 4 movies on this meme. Go, go, go. Sure, someone's got to know all 4. Come on. We'll wait about 30 seconds. If no one can name all 4, then I'll let you know what they are. Anybody? No? No extra credit? All right, we got 3 out of the 4. So those are all correct. And the 4th one? The 4th one's, oh, there we go. Nice, nice, nice. But yeah, my favorite is definitely Castaway. But yeah, it's Apollo 13, Castaway, Captain Phillips, and then Sully are the movies. And if you've seen the movies, it's always crazy, weird travel stuff that's going on. So the next thing we're going to talk about is just thought I'd share some just some interesting data for you. So this is actually our 2018 travel spend. And so just a little project that I kind of took on. And so I actually took a look at 2016 and 17 as well. Just thought I'd share you the 2018 data, just so you know kind of where it comes from. Where I got this from was what's referred to as the spend cube. And so how I kind of went about my data was by object code. So this is pretty much strictly accounting data. And how I set it up was per calendar year. So we're not looking at our fiscal year. I decided to just go by calendar year, just since it was just for the interest of kind of seeing what's going on as far as what we spend. And so once we got into the numbers, it was pretty interesting. One thing that's super interesting is that when you look at all 3 years is that they stay actually very, very steady. So when we look at this breakdown of airfare and per diem, they gradually go up over all 3 years, but the amount that we spend on airfare and per diem and mileage, they stay like very, very close to each other. And I was kind of expecting like some fluctuation over years and things like that, but they all trend up, but they all trend up like in equal amounts, which is kind of interesting. But our annual spend is 60 million. So the number it was about 59 million, something like that. But just thought I would kind of round it up to share you. But pretty interesting. And so that 60 million is kind of what we all sort of manage as far as travel, or kind of what falls under the travel office as well as the CTA. I also looked at a couple other numbers such as consultant travel and charter travel are not included in this. If you bump in some of those numbers, it actually gets closer to 70 million. So pretty crazy how much money we're spending on these things. And then expense reports. So in 2018, we processed 57,840 expense reports, pretty crazy. And then the expense reports have also been trending up each year. So it's added about 1,000 or a couple thousand each year over the last few years. And then our office, we reviewed about 13%, which came out to 7,500 or so. So yeah, that's what definitely keeps us busy. And I'm sure you guys are already aware, but yeah, our reviews are based on predetermined flags, and it's a high-risk review. So if you're wondering how in the world we get through all that, it's because we're really just focused on what we were flagged for, and just kind of taking a look at the high risk. And sort of our audit role is very educational. So we don't necessarily have the authority to approve or deny something, since we aren't the actual like budget authority, but we're there, to educate and things like that. But that is how many that we did get through. But one thing that was super great was the approval rate. So when looking at 2018, and this approval rate has definitely gone up some significantly, but it's at 86.08%. And so we have a targeted goal of 85% or above. And so 2018, we definitely hit that mark. So good job on your compliance. Oh, and then also, just quickly on the breakdown. So airfare and per diem, we spent about, per diem is for lodging and for meals. So those are both included in there. And those numbers are very similar to airfare each year. So for some reason, we spend about the same on a per diem as we do on airfare. And then mileage, 3%, car rental, 2%. You kind of think maybe those would be a little bit higher, but people are, they're avoiding the mileage and stuff like that. And then other would be just sort of the 0416 object code. So that's going to be other things such as like parking and tolls and some of those other smaller expenses. And so for this slide, we're going to be talking about potential airfare policy change. And so what we're looking at, we've actually discussed this in the last couple of meetings. And I know you guys are very aware of what these issues are. The airfare industry is changing just the way they market themselves like crazy. And it's causing all kinds of compliance issues related to airfare upgrades. And so the problem to be solved, shifts in the airline industry, they're making it very difficult to break airfare upgrades apart by class. And so with all these marketing strategies and things like that, what they're doing is just constantly renaming it. We're trying to figure out, is this really an economy upgrade? Is this business class? Is this first class? And as you guys are aware, the compliance changes based on those classes. And so if we're spending all this time trying to figure out what the class is, there's a lot of administrative time that's being sent to that. And so at this point, we're just kind of trying to figure out what the best way to solve that issue is. And I listed a couple of examples. So I think in one of our presentations, we highlighted Delta One. And so what Delta is doing with this class is they're marketing it as business class. But if you really get into the weeds of it and you look at what this class is, if you actually take a look, it really looks like a first or a luxury class. And so the way they're marketing it is getting very confusing. And so when our travelers are going to book, it's being marketed as business class. And what's happening is these tickets are being spit out as first class. And then in fact, they're really like a luxury class if you actually take a look at it. And so if you looked at the actual, like the cabin, they get like a full bed and kind of like their own like private little like suite area sometimes. And what they're doing is marketing that as a business class. And so as you can imagine, there's issues there. One place where it really becomes an issue is we have the 14-hour rule, which is for business only. And so what's happening is our travelers going to book their airfare, and then they're essentially, because they think it's business class and then it's being spit out as first class. And some of these airfares can run between like $10,000, $12,000 when where they really should have been approved for would be in maybe like the premium economy class or something like that, which was significantly less expensive. A couple other like weird ones I see. What I was just listing is just the example of how they're naming it. It just gets very confusing. So Mint class I've seen, I think that's on JetBlue. Like what is Mint class? Obviously that's confusing. And then Comfort Plus, is that an economy? Is that business? All that kind of stuff. And so that's just the problem that we're taking a look at. And then, I'd already mentioned this. So what makes this an issue is, determining who's the proper authority. So is it a coach upgrade? Coach upgrades can go to the administrator. Is it really business? Can that be approved on the 14-hour rule? And then is it first class? Does it have to go to the dean no matter what, kind of thing? Oh, moving away from the microphone, sorry. Let me get it a little closer. Is that better? Okay, I'll just make sure I talk this way. I'll just shift my chair a little bit. And so, that's the issue that we're trying to figure out. And so was it first? Does it have to go to the dean? Are they actually approved on the 14-hour rule and all this kind of stuff? And so I know you guys are spending a lot of time, and we get lots of phone calls too, like with the seat fees and the coach upgrades. What is this? Like, where does it need to go to? And so we're very aware that something kind of needs to change here to make it a little easier. And so this is kind of the potential policy that we are looking at for now. But I want to highlight that this is a potential change with no change date. This is only under discussion. This airfare policy would definitely need to go kind of up the chain. It would probably be going up to the vice presidents in finance kind of thing, just to review and make sure, since this would be a pretty significant change. And so kind of the idea that we've come up with to potentially solve this problem, if they are okay with it, would be that all airfare upgrades to be approved by department authorized person. And so that way it really comes down to the person that has like the signing authority on the budget and who's the head of the department, and to review those kind of like on a case-by-case basis, since it's becoming so difficult to figure out what these upgrades are. That way it just goes to the same person each time. It's just anything that has to do with an upgrade for airfare. So if it's a coach upgrade or business class, first class, or if they're paying for an additional seat or paying a seat fee for whatever reason, there may be like a business need for that. That way it's just, okay, I know there's an airfare upgrade involved with this airfare. And so then you just go to the authorized person. And then if you're unclear on who the authorized person is, I have the next slide. We're gonna just kind of go over that just as a reminder, just to make sure you're aware of what I'm talking about there. And then so what we're thinking is probably for this one, just because the airline industry, it just gets confusing. We're trying to decipher what this upgrade is, that we would probably have this be approved on a trip-by-trip basis for these airfares. And then the only exception to that would be ADA compliance. So if they're on file with the DSO office, so the Disability Service Office, and how they treat ADA approvals is usually like a blanket for 1 year, even if they're on a permanent condition type of thing. And so if everything's on file with the ADA, then you're good to go anyways. But for sort of everything else, as far as upgrades, just having those reviewed by the authorized person. And so I got a couple of questions, so let's get to those. If the traveler purchased first class airfare and only reimbursed coach airfare, it doesn't need the dean approval, is that right? That is correct. If the coach airfare uses the state fund and over coach 64 budget, uses the 64 doesn't need, no, it does not. So as long as the funding allows for that and everything, and if you're covering the overage on top of the coach class on your 64 budget, then you're good. You don't need to go get the dean approval as long as the funding allows for it and everything like that. And then, that is our procedure. So someone like, if it's known as personal preference that they got first class, then what you would do is do the coach class. You basically treat it like personal travel, where you get the coach class comparison and then reimburse of the coach class, and then you're good to go. Is business in first only for international travel or domestic as well? It can be for both. Usually we see mostly business in first class on international travel. But there are, there's ADA exceptions where people are traveling and on business for domestic as well as international. And so it's just circumstantial, but we see it for both. But for business class, we see that a lot for international because of that 14-hour rule. And you don't have to go up to the dean and stuff like that to get approved. So a lot of our international travelers are getting approved for that. And so one thing to add also is we'll be releasing a survey. So based on this potential policy change, we just kind of want to get your feedback on it. And we'll definitely have like kind of a comment section on that survey. So you can just say, maybe give us some more details on if this is an issue for you, or maybe you might just say, we don't really think this policy change is necessary. We're not really struggling with what you're talking about kind of thing. And so we'll probably be releasing that in the next few weeks or month or so to get it ready. Let's see if I got a new message. If the seat fee is for economy class, we don't need department approval, right? That's what was told from me earlier this year. That's not necessarily true. So if they do pay, if they do pay a seat fee, generally the seats are guaranteed. And so if you're paying for a seat fee, generally it's not something that's always required. But there are some instances where it is required to gain the seat. But we still, based on the compliance, we still are asking for the administrator approval on those. And talking to the mic, sorry. Yeah, it's because I'll pull the chat to the left side while I talk. That way I'm going towards the mic a little bit more. And so our next slide, so who is an authorized person? So I had mentioned we're thinking about making all airfare upgrades to be approved by this authority. And so for a general fund budget, the authorized person would generally be the head of the organizational unit to which the budget is assigned, or the head's authorized designee. If it is a grant or a contract budget, that would be the principal investigator, so the PI, or departmental chair to whom the grant or contract was awarded, or an authorized designee other than the claimant. And then when the claimant is the authorized person, that would be, so that is when they're the head of the organization or the PI, the approval must be that of an appropriate dean, chair, or an authorized designee other than the claimant. So just kind of a reminder of the authorized person. The authorized person is also the person who gives the pre-trip approval. So this would generally, the best way to think of it is just whoever's doing your pre-trip approval for your travelers would be this authority, because they're already required to do that based on the approval policy. And then the authorized designee should be the traveler supervisor or higher. Just another thing to note on that. The next thing we're going to talk about is painfield tips. So if you haven't heard of Painfield, this is a new airport up north. And so where it's located is in Everett, Washington. And so this could definitely be a convenient stop for anybody who is living in that area. But just a little background on info on Painfield. So it's currently operating 2 airlines, Alaska and United, and they're operating 24 flights. So just kind of a good thing to be aware of, that they're not operating other airlines. It's limited to Alaska and United at the moment, with a total of 24 flights. So definitely limited as far as flight options, but it still can be definitely a great convenience factor for somebody living up north. We have heard issues related to parking. So this is just something we've heard from like other vendors and other travelers, things like that, where they've had issues related to parking. And so where the issue is that I've heard is the economy lot gets very, very busy, and sometimes it actually fills. And so this would mostly just be related to any travelers that are traveling to the airport and then parking there during their trip. And so the issue they may run into, since it's so busy, that they're being asked to go to the premium lot, which may spike up the rate and things like that. They don't have like other additional like parking options like SeaTac, such as like Wally Park, and I know they have other ones that you can park there as well. And so you may want to consider other transportation options. So taking an Uber and things like that may be more economical, as well as more convenient. So you don't want to have your traveler get there and then they're being told to go to other lots and everything's full and everything like that. It could get a little messy. And then significantly reduce transportation time to the airport. So that's where kind of really the convenience comes into play. And so it's located in Everett. Anybody traveling from north, I'm sure you're aware, tons of traffic. If you're going at peak times, coming all the way from north, going all the way down I-5 and all that to get to SeaTac is a nightmare sometimes. I got a couple other questions. So does a self-sustaining budget fall under general fund budget category? I believe so. So yeah, it essentially be like any budgets besides like grant funding is kind of what we're talking about in that section. The microphone is still an issue. Let's see if I can turn the volume up or something. I'm just going to go to my sound settings real quick, see if I can up the volume on the microphone. 1 second. So I had a few ticks to turn it up. All right, that's as high as it'll go. So I'll do my best to talk as loud as I can. How does the authorized person give the approval? They would have multiple options, but yeah, generally would see it like in an email, something like that. And then it would be by a trip basis. So because of the issues with deciphering the class and everything like that. And so we would give them the option to probably do, that would generally be an email approval. All right, the next thing we're going to look at, so this kind of is in relation to the project in which we're updating our website. And so I just kind of wanted to show you how I sort of rebuilt the determining per diem section on the meal page. Determining lodging per diem is something that people don't seem to struggle with as much, but I just wanted to highlight what I did with the page, and also it might be kind of a little bit of a training or a reminder type situation to just kind of go over how do you determine the per diem as far as breaking out the breakfast and the lunch and the dinner and where you go to get it and things like that. And I just wanted to also take the moment just to to explain the page and how I set it up and kind of what I was going for with it. And so kind of how I set it up and the kind of the procedure for determining meal per diem. When you're going out to the external websites to acquire the per diem, what you need to do is you're only going there to acquire the daily rate. So one thing that I get a lot of questions about, and there seems to be confusion that gets floating around, is when you go to those sites, sometimes you will see a per diem breakdown for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and separating out in incidentals and things like that. But just note that that is not the way we do it. And the reason we don't do it that way is that's the way that the federal government or the feds break it apart. But since we are a state agency and we report through the state of Washington, we have different requirements. And so what the feds do is they separate out an incidental amount, and then they do a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which is different than us. And they also the other thing that is different. What's the other thing that's different? Oh, they the first and last day of travel. So we go based on a start time and an end time. And what the feds do is they apply a 75% of per diem for the first day of travel, and then a 75% to the last day of travel. And so obviously that is different than the way we do it. What we do is based on the state requirements, which is separating it out 25% for breakfast, 30% for lunch, and 45% for dinner. And then Ariba, so the reimbursement software, it does that automatically. And so I'm just going to go to the page and just do an example just to show you. Let me make sure I'm showing the right thing. So new share, here we go. And so there is incidentals. It's still the daily per diem. It's just that we do 25%, those different percentages. And so the incidental is just sort of absorbed into that percent. So what they do is separate out $5 for incidentals, and ours just kind of gets mixed in with the percent, if that makes sense. So we do cover the incidental. The daily rate per diem is still the same. It's just we apply those percentages. And so the 5%, that $5 just kind of gets lost within that total sort of thing. And so you should be able to see my webpage now. And so just so you know how the per diem works. So we have 3 different sites that you would need to go to get the different per diems. And so the domestic per diem site, or from the GSA, is only going to be the 48 contiguous states. So just want to educate on that, remind on that. And so that would not include Hawaii and Alaska. So whenever you're going to the GSA, you're looking for those 48 states. And so I'm just going to show you how I do it. So if I'm looking for a domestic per diem, I will just do San Diego as my example. That's what I always do in my trainings. And so we're coming here and then we're searching. And I just wanted to show you kind of what I was explaining earlier. So I'd mentioned the GSA breaks it apart different. So when you get to here, you always ignore all this information right here. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, $5 for incidental, first and last day of travel. So they took 75% of that. And so you just ignore that. That's the way the feds do it. And so what we're looking for is this M&I&E total. So 71. And then what we do then, so we know it's $71 is our daily per diem. I'm just going to set up the share. Mouse to Just one sec, I'm gonna take it, oh, there we go. So you take that $71, and then what you're doing then is you're coming over to this chart that we have on our website. And so now when I go down the list, now I see $71. And so now I know my breakfast is 18, 21, and 32. And so just kind of want to show you how I built it. And so when you go to see it and it's all new, it'll make perfect sense. But that's how you determine the per diem, and that's why you may see those different breakdowns. Those are the actual differences. The next thing we wanted to go over is travel insurance. So this is something we get asked about frequently. If you've been on our non-reimbursable page, you'll see it on there. And I'm sure you've had travelers bug you to get reimbursed for travel insurance. And so one question we get is, why is it not reimbursable? It just comes up all the time. And so I just wanted to kind of share my analysis on kind of what I read online and the issues I've seen with it. And just to give you a little better background for maybe the next time that your traveler comes to ask you about this. And so the first thing is the circumstances for collecting are outrageous. They really, really are. And actually collecting is an incredible burden. And so on the next slide, I'm going to give you a couple examples of the circumstances. They're pretty crazy. And then actually collecting is an incredible burden. And so I've taken a look at like the paperwork that you have to do and things like that. And it kind of reminds me of when you have to do like a mail-in rebate kind of thing, like sending in all these forms and documents and things like that. And so, so let's just say, yeah, the traveler had to make a change or they had to cancel, and now they're going to the point of collection from one of these providers. And once you get to that point, it's a nightmare for sure. And so that's just kind of my analysis from what I've researched. And I'll show you a couple of examples that are pretty funny on the next slide. And then just sort of general background. So for reimbursement, our travelers are protected under a change cancellation of travel plans. So as long as, the change was for a business reason, or if they experience their own illness or anything like that, they're already protected based on that reimbursement policy. And so if they're getting anxious about their trip and things like that, they should know that they are covered under that compliance. So as long as the change or cancellation wasn't, like for personal reasons, and there was, it fits within that compliance, they're going to get reimbursed anyways. And so that should be dealing with any of the more like the anxious side of it. One thing I've definitely noticed, since I get asked about this quite often, is the trend shows that these are typically being asked when personal travel is involved. So like big sort of like international trips, and there's a lot of personal travel involved. And so it just kind of seems that there's a trend going that way. And then kind of the issue with that is then there's the risk of sort of a personal gain to the traveler. And so that's kind of something that our compliance is always preventing against. And so there could be the issue of them having this travel insurance and then collecting on it for like a personal reason. And so there could be some risk to your funding in the university there because of the personal gain aspect. And so those are kind of just the high level sort of analysis of sort of what I've seen based on all the calls and emails and stuff I've gotten from it, and also my just sort of personal research from taking a closer look. And so this is just a screenshot from one of the main providers. From what I've seen, what people are trying to ask, this is actually the provider I see like probably 7 out of 10 times. They're the ones, I think they do it for like Delta and Alaska and all kinds of different ones. But here's just an example of some of the reasons that you could collect from. The first one is a terrorist event happens at your destination within 30 days of the day you're scheduled to arrive. And so I'm just like, so if it's day 31, do I not get reimbursed? Like, I don't know. When you read them, they get pretty wild. Another good one. So your airline, cruise line, or other carrier ceases service for at least 24 consecutive hours due to a strike, natural disaster, bad weather, or FAA mandated shutdown. And so just a couple examples of some crazy stuff. And if you go through all of them, you can imagine why there's some risk of trying to roll out some sort of program where this becomes reimbursable. It's just sort of a nightmare. The next section. So this is just a reminder. We've sent out a couple emails on this, but just note if you had our old box number written down, just that we did change our mailbox. This is definitely important if you're going to be sending us checks for reconciliation and things like that. And so just note that it's changed. The new box number is 354967. If you have seen that box number before, it was one several years back that we were on. It's actually it's the procurement's box number as well. But there was a while where we were separated on our own just because we were receiving a lot of checks and it was easier to separate, and procurement receives a lot of checks as well. And so it was a little easier to have them separated, but we lost that one due to availability. And so we're back on this one. So if you're sending anything to us in intercampus mail, just note to make the change there. Another reminder that we are doing our website updates. So you may notice that content is shifting around, or you may go to like a bookmark link and it's changed, anything like that. Just note that that is because we are making these updates. We're trying to leave the URLs alone as much as possible, especially on like the main pages. But if they're really kind of messed up or clunky or anything like that, then we will update them. But generally what we're updating is like the actual tags within the page. So when we're linking to like a direct spot in the page, a lot of those are a little messed up. And so I'll be fixing those. And so yeah, the project to include fixing, rewriting content, removing duplicate information, things like that. And then just kind of, shifting the content and adjusting clunky URLs. And I'd said this before, we recommend bookmarking the following page. So this is where we're going to be keeping a sort of a live link to every published page. If you've been to this page already, you'll see it's just a bulleted list. It's kind of the best way to think about it will be sort of our temporary like table of contents for the compliance. And so if a main page changes or gets deleted or something like that, if you know what topic you're looking for, I would just come back to that page, and that'd be a good place to start. And then also if you still can't find it and everything like that, then obviously reach out to our office or reach out to me and I can point you in the right direction. Will there be info in upcoming meetings on finance transformation, future financial systems going away? I'm not aware of any campus-facing meetings at the moment. I think at procurement's upcoming forum, or I can't remember if they already had it or if it's coming up, I believe they're going to have a guest from finance transformation come out and speak. So if you're interested in that, that may be a good opportunity. But as far as any other plans, as far as campus-facing meetings, I'm not aware of any at the moment. Biennium close. So I'm sure you've seen a bunch of emails on this already. Oh, not too far. But just a reminder, biennium close. Now we're in June, so you're getting down to the last straw on this stuff for sure. And so for full information related to all financial functions, do make sure that you visit the page on procurement's site. And so that's going to give you all the information about other things such as deadlines for journal vouchers and cash transmittals and everything else related to finance. That would be the good place to go. And also just more general background information, everything like that is going to have all that information for you. But I just wanted to highlight the deadlines for travel. And so for travel, the deadline for expense reports to guarantee an approval in time to charge it to the current biennium is going to be June 17th at 5 p.m. And then also I wanted to note that it is actually possible for it to still hit the previous or the current biennium up until, 5 p.m. 3 p.m. on June 25th. And so like if you call me on June 25th and it's 2 p.m. and it's flagged for our review, then what that's saying is it could still potentially be charged to the previous biennium. But as long as it's done before the 17th, that gives us plenty of time. We'll for sure be making sure to clear ERs out during biennium. That's usually kind of one of our focuses at the end of that month, just to make sure we're clearing everything out. But if you have anything very important, like let's say it's June 23rd, and you absolutely needed to charge the previous biennium, then give us a call on that one for sure. We'll make sure to do our best to get in there and approve it for you. Was the timeline finalized for submission of reimbursement? What do you mean exactly? Was the timeline finalized? Are you referencing the potential policy we had talked about for like the 60 days? I'm not exactly sure what that question is. Oh, no. So that was just something, that was just a potential policy change. It's just something that's under discussion. We may come back to it and give you some more information, but at the moment, that one is at a standstill. But we're still gathering feedback. So if you have anything like that, we still get phone calls, and I know people are pushing for that. But just so you know, at the moment, it's still, just in discussion. There's no determined date. If anything was moving forward on it, we would give you lots of notice. This would be a huge change for the university. But we'll let you know and we'll keep you updated. But at the moment, there's no updates on that one. And so this next slide, I just wanted to show you sort of a common issue that I've been coming across. I just wanted to make sure you guys are clear on why this is not an allowable procedure. And so this is related to personal travel as far as acquiring a comparison airfare and then following that procedure for reimbursement for personal travel. I just wanted to highlight something that I have seen that is not allowable. I just wanted to kind of explain it. I did my best to map it out in a slide. But if you have any questions, let me know. But I'll do my best to explain what I'm talking about. And so the example I gave, so this is going to be personal travel. Let's say they had a conference from Wednesday through Friday, and then they stayed the last 2 days for personal travel in that location. And so we'll apply this example. And so we'll just pretend the actual cost. So this was the flight, the round trip. This was influenced by personal. The total cost, it was $800. And then, so one thing I've been seeing some people do is what they'll do is, so normally what you would do is do the comparison airfare, right? We'll pretend that was $600. So what you would normally do is do the comparison, and then you're comparing that versus the actual, which is how the policy is written. So that is the procedure you do have to follow. But one thing I've seen is some people or some departments do like a mock-up of the personal in addition to the actual cost. So what I'm seeing is essentially 3 different documents instead of what is normally required is only the 2. So your actual flight information, the comparison. What I'm seeing is sort of a third thing where they're doing the actual cost, and then they're going and they're doing essentially 2 comparisons. They're doing a mock-up for UW business only, and then they're also doing a mock-up for personal, and just basically just relating the information of those 2. And then using that to just say that since the way we do those comparisons of the mock-up of business and the mock-up of personal, we're saying, oh, that covers the personal costs. So we're going to go ahead and reimburse at the full actual. And so I just wanted to highlight that is not allowable. Each time a comparison airfare to show what the business cost needs to be produced, and then that needs to be compared to the actual cost. And you can't do any sort of like mock-up for the personal travel. Those 2 things need to be compared. And then, as you know, reimbursement then is the lesser of those 2 things. So if you see anybody doing that, or if anybody asks you, is this okay? Just note that that's not reimbursable, or they're just not following the proper procedure. And if you feel any confusion by this or anything like that, or if you wanted to follow up with me to get more information about what I was talking about, you're welcome to reach out to me separately, and I can explain it a little bit more. So this slide, just made a little Mythbuster slide on this one. And so one thing that I see that floats around fairly often, not all the time, is this sort of concept that people are discussing. And so what I wanted to highlight, so the question is, does a traveler have to be in travel status for an expense to be considered travel? The answer to that is no. And so the reason for that, the answer is no, is obviously a lot of the travel that we are supporting, they are on travel status and everything like that. But I just wanted to highlight that travel status actually serves a specific purpose. It's not just determining if something is travel. Travel status is used solely to determine if a traveler qualifies for per diem, essentially. And then it's also used as a tool to decipher between whether when a meal is purchased for somebody else, if it was for whether we classify that as meals paid for others or hosting and entertaining. And so the best way to think about travel status is that's how we determine if someone is eligible for per diem. And it's not just a determinant to determine if something is travel. And so, of course, when people are on travel status, then they're accumulating other expenses and things like that. And But I just hear this confusion of, oh, they have to be on travel status for something to be considered travel. And so I'll give you just some examples of why that isn't true. So we reimburse parking. We consider local mileage to be travel. If someone's taking like an Uber to a downtown meeting, something like that, we consider that to be travel. And none of those scenarios do they necessarily have to be on travel status. So, and then travel status, obviously more than 50 miles away from their home and their duty station. And so I hear that getting floated around. And so if you hear it, just let people know that travel status has actually a specific purpose. It's related to per diem, and it doesn't necessarily mean that or it doesn't have to be the way for something to be determined as travel. So getting towards the end, so just so you know, I just want to highlight some of our upcoming projects. So this is just sort of in the next coming months, some things that we'll be working on. So one thing that we're pretty excited about is we are drafting a travel agency RFQQ. If you don't know what an RFQQ is, it's very similar to an RFP. But we're going to be looking to build a sort of a pool of agencies for travel agencies. One thing I figured I'd be asked, how does that relate to our relationship with Christofferson Business Travel? They have signed the renewal and we will still be working with them. And so this is just kind of a side project in relation to that. But what we're going to be doing, is creating a pool of agencies. And we're just kind of getting into the weeds of it or towards the end of like the drafting. There's still more information to come on this. And so just kind of a high level, just kind of let you know that is something that we're working on. And so we're kind of reworking the travel agency program. One thing you may have noticed is that we released a travel agency survey. So I just want to thank you all for taking that. The results on it were actually excellent. I think we got 311 respondents. A lot of people really wanted to talk about travel agencies and issues they're running into. And we kind of took a sort of a first glance at it. And there's a lot of great info in there. And so that'll definitely we'll be using that when we're working on the travel agency RFQ type thing. So thank you for that. And also a special shout out to ICA. So Nicole's group, the travel office over there, helped us kind of put that together. And so thank you to them. Looks like I got a question. So what about flying versus driving? Flying requires lodging due to flight time, driving does not. Can we provide mock-up when airfare lodging is more than mileage, but comparison? So yeah, that's a little bit different than the comparison that I was talking about. Can we provide mock-up when airfare plus lodging is more than mileage? And so, yeah, you can. So when you're doing a drive versus fly comparison, that's a little bit different than when we're treating personal travel. You can kind of consider all the different costs. So what she's talking about is when drivers choose a different mode of transportation to get to a business location besides flying. Essentially, how it works now, the compliance is it's built just into the pre-trip approval. So whoever's doing the authorized person should be reviewing just to make sure that what they're doing is the most economical. But if it's known that they're doing like personal preference, so if they're choosing to drive to the location as opposed to fly, the basis for comparison is what it would have cost for them to fly there. And you can consider all the different costs. So obviously mileage may have, more meal per diem because it takes them longer to get there. But there may be, cost savings on ground transportation to get to the airport because they're driving to the business location as opposed to going to the airport with an Uber and stuff like that. And so when you're doing that comparison, yeah, you can consider other mock-ups and things like that. So that one's a little bit different than what I was discussing before. And then so website updates I already mentioned. One thing we want to highlight on the website, so this will be kind of a big project, vendor discount page. And so all the vendor discounts and things like that are loaded into the procurement contract portal. But we're going to be collaborating with them and try to get a sort of a vendor discount that's actually just related to travel on our page. I know using the portal and things like that, sometimes it can be difficult to get all the information that you need. And so we're going to do our best to kind of make a one-stop shop for all of our different vendor discounts. So it would have any of our agency agreements and discounts about what we have with the airlines, hotels. Obviously, the enterprise contract information would be on there, and things like that. So trying to just make it a little bit easier to get the information that you're looking for that. Is UW moving away from CBT being our preferred travel agency? And so, no, that is not the case. We already assigned our the renewal agreement, and they will also be invited to either join the pool or just keep their same agreement and things like that. And so we're not moving away from CBT. This is just sort of an additional project on top of CBT. We're considering, opening up more of a pool. And so if you're interested in more information, you're welcome to give me a call and I can give you a little bit more details on that. But it's very high level at this point. But no, we're not moving away from CBT. They will be welcome to join the RFQ or keep their same agreement and everything like that. So all stays the same in regards to CBT. But you may, you'll be able to see the RFQ and you can see the different options and things like that. And so, but if you want more information, I'm happy to discuss as well. And then another thing, so the vendor discount page will definitely be one of our projects. One thing we're going to be taking another look at is the MPO spreadsheet. So that's the meals paid for other spreadsheet. There's a couple things that are a couple issues with it, as far as there's a couple sort of rounding issues where it's with the international per diems. And we're also just want to take another look at it. We've had it out there for a while, and I would like to just sort of redo it and rework it a little bit. So you'll hear some more information related to that. But if you have any input for me or anything like that relating to the spreadsheet, any issues you run into or what could be better, do make sure you shoot me an email about it. We can talk about it. Potential travel showcase. So there is a possibility that we'll be having another one. We don't really have a whole lot of details to share on, where it's going to be or what's going to be happening. This is just kind of a high level. We're just kind of starting to discuss it. We're looking at potentially maybe in August, something like that. And so just so you know, we'll be working on that. There may be more information. So just keep a look at your email and we'll let you know what's going on with that. Also potential TSA pre-check events. So I'm sure you've seen our emails about these before. These are usually coordinated with Alaska Airlines, kind of with our partnership with them. And so we are looking to schedule some more of those for sure, maybe at the end of summer or sometime in the fall, something like that. So keep your eyes open for that. Airfare upgrade policy. So we'll be doing that survey. So keep an eye out for that. We would love your feedback on what your thoughts are on that change. Definitely any known issues with it. So if you have any actual concerns with the authorized person, this wouldn't work for us and this is why, that's definitely the stuff we want to take a look at. And then I put finance transformation on here. I just wanted to let you know, since things are starting to ramp up, we'll definitely be kind of collaborating on things like that. So when they're gathering requirements from us, and we'll definitely be doing some analysis projects for them and things like that. And so just want to let you know that we will be in a way sort of absorbed by that project as well. And so it's definitely be keeping us busy. And so from what I've heard, they're kind of moving past sort of the gathering of requirements, and now they're moving into more of a design phase. And so it kind of sounds like, they'll definitely be reaching out to us for requirements for the design phase and all that kind of stuff. And so just know that it's going to keep you guys busy, but it'll also be keeping us busy as well on our end. And that is everything I have. And so I'll definitely be sticking around for questions. Feel free to send them in the chat, or if you think of any other follow-up questions, just send it to us at travel@uw.edu, and we'll be happy to answer. But thank you, everyone. I appreciate you coming by. Hope you had a good time. I missed your name. So my name is Kelly McGarry. All righty. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, I'll leave the chat open for a couple more minutes before I shut it off. Usually get a couple questions that trickle in. Let's see, got a question. Will the travel office be sending out more info on the Real ID Act since expenses incurred will not be reimbursable? So yeah, the Real ID Act is something we've definitely been tracking and that we've been doing our best to stay up on. But I think we mentioned some info on it on the last meeting, but we'll definitely be tracking it closely, and especially as it becomes closer, we're gonna definitely be making people aware of that. If you're still around and you want to know about the Real ID Act, so that has to do with documentation requirements for getting through security at SeaTac or just in Washington in general. It's actually a federal law that passed that just upped the standards on what documents you need to get through certain like federal agencies. And so where it affects us in travel is getting through the airport. And so your Washington driver's license, if it's just a standard driver's license, will no longer work at SeaTac. And I believe the date is October 1st of 2020. So it is coming up. And so essentially what travelers then need to do is get the proper documents to be able to get through. So I myself actually only have a driver's license, so this definitely affects me. And so the two main things that they're going to be accepting, so enhanced driver's license with Washington State will get you through. And then if you have a passport and I believe military IDs, something like that will work as well. But we'll be keeping track of it and keep you guys updated as it comes closer. And yeah, it will definitely not be reimbursable, and we'll be highlighting that as well. So when your travelers come to ask you about it, it won't be reimbursable. And obviously the reason it's not reimbursable is there's too much kind of a personal aspect to it. So just even if I'm going on a vacation, so I'm a pretty good example because I only have the driver's license. I would definitely, if I asked the university to reimburse me for it, even if I was going on a business trip, I would get some personal gain because I have to go take care of that anyways, just to go travel to see my family and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of why it's not reimbursable. Will there ever be a partnership for global entry? I'm not sure. I know that's a popular program, but we would be definitely open to any opportunities like that if they ever come up, but nothing planned at the moment. Oh, and then I should have mentioned this earlier. So this is a recording, and I'll be doing the edits. And what we do is we send it back out on the listserv. So where you had heard about the meeting, we send it through that same channel, and we send the recording as well as the slides, and then we turn it into a YouTube video. So anybody that couldn't tune in, we make sure to send that out as well. When using meal per diem and the traveler has meals in multiple cities due to multiple flights,